Thanks for tuning in to this week's edition of the Brett and Matt Show. As always, he's Brett, I'm Matt, and so this week we got a little bit of NFL stuff to go over and maybe touch on some NCAA tournament stuff that's happened after the first weekend of the tournament. But I guess we'll just jump right into it. We'll start with NFL stuff. So. Right now, there's the owners' meetings, and they're going over the rule committee and going over changes with that stuff. There's been some rumors of a couple pretty big name players, maybe not so happy with their current teams. One of the surprising names, I guess you could say, would be Philip Rivers. Is supposedly would like a trade, would maybe like to. Apparently said that he will not re-sign with the Chargers as of right now. So the Chargers might be looking to try and trade him. What do you make of this situation with Philip Rivers and the Chargers?
You mentioned, I think it's a little surprising. Obviously he's been there his whole career. I feel like they've treated him pretty well. He's had some success for the most part. They just haven't really ever gotten over the hump. And I don't really know where he would be. There's obviously a lot of teams that could probably use a quarterback. Tennessee's probably looking for somebody. Houston probably should have had their guy last year in the draft and didn't succeed there, which we've touched on a lot of times. But it does seem a little weird. I don't know what his angle is, if he's trying to get more money out of him, or I don't know what his most recent contract is, but obviously with a lot of the quarterbacks that have been re-signing now and they're making $20 million a year, if he feels like he should be in that company and he's not right now, maybe that's kind of what he's playing for. I'm not really sure. What do you think?
Yeah, I remember he signed an extension, but I feel like it was a while ago now. So maybe he does feel undervalued. Now, guys like Matt Ryan and Tony Romo are commanding all this money. Even Jay Cutler. I guess from his stance, I guess I would be a little upset too. To be fair to the Chargers, though, they essentially chose him over Breeze. They let obviously Breeze started with the Chargers and isn't there now. They decided to roll with Rivers. I think he's had a pretty good career overall. Obviously, I always felt like, and I don't know if this probably isn't all necessarily his fault. I just felt like sometimes those San Diego teams underachieved. You had LaDainian Tomlinson and Antonio Gates both in their prime on the same team with a pretty good quarterback, and they couldn't win in the postseason when it counted. I guess getting back to Rivers, though, if he were to be traded, you hit on it. I think he's still clearly an above-average quarterback. He's got to be. If he's not in your top 10, he's got to be like borderline top 10, I would think. If he goes to a team like you mentioned, Houston. If he went to a team like Houston, all of a sudden the Colts would instantly have another team that they are going to have to compete with to win that division. Right now I'm just going to say it, the Colts are going to be the favorite until some other team in that division finds a franchise quarterback. Maybe Blake Bortles can be that guy. I don't know. Yet to be seen. But someone like Philip Rivers, who's been in the league a long time, if you plugged him in, you got to think that would be a big improvement. And with the defense Houston has, that would be a good fit. And you said, there would be lots of teams that would like that. Tennessee's sitting there at number 2 overall. They have a needed quarterback. Maybe they would do something to try and bring him in or get a trade worked out. There is the possibility that the Chargers are bringing in Mariota for a private workout. So just to stir the rumor mill a little bit, that would be kind of fun on draft day. I'm not really sure what to make of it though, because I guess this is kind of the first I've heard about him being upset. Now I don't follow the Chargers on a regular basis, so to be fair, he could have been hinting at this for a while, and I wouldn't have known. But I don't know. It's kind of interesting and something worth keeping an eye on.
What do you think they could get out of him? I mean, we talked about, Tennessee's there at 2. Would Tennessee give up a number 2 for Phil, or would they say, all right, let's do a flop of first-round picks, and you throw Phil our way, and we will throw in like a player and a pick? So like you could say we'll get, Phillip Rivers and another pick back in return for 2, or do you think they would give up like a couple of like this year's second and a future second? Or I mean, like what's the value going to be on a quarterback, especially if you got the number 2 overall pick? Like that seems awfully high to toss away for a guy that, I mean, is established. He's going to be much better than what you got, and he's probably going to be for another 5-ish years. But I mean, are you willing to throw away a number 1 pick, which could get you maybe 10 years out of a player, whether you go with, Mariota or Leonard Williams or whatever the kid's name is out of USC, if you want some help in the defensive line? Like, what do you give up for Phillip?
Well, that's a great question, because usually the kind of things, like, usually for whatever reason, the player that is being traded, for whatever reason, just isn't worth a ton, usually. I mean, I feel like lately, like, the trades that have happened, like, it's like, oh, well, I guess the exception would be the Colts did give up a first round for Trent Richardson, which, not a good decision. But I just feel like in general, they're usually, like, just for whatever reason, like when the Saints traded Darren Sproles for, like, a 4th round pick or something. It's just like, what? Like, he's got to be worth more than that, but I guess not. Anyways, though, it's interesting because, like you said, like, he's established. You know what you're getting with him. He's probably got another, like, 5 good years of quarterback play. That's hard to gauge. I really don't know, like, how much value one team should put on that. Because the number 2 overall pick, you just guaranteed yourself either Winston or Mariota if you're going after a quarterback. Like, that's what you did. So, I feel like if you're Tennessee, you have a chance to get Phillip Rivers, as you mentioned, maybe 4 or 5 years, good play. Get Phillip Rivers. You would have to get a decent haul from the Chargers to make this worth it. But if you got that, you theoretically could rebuild your team really fast.
Yeah, that's true. And I pulled up one of those draft pick value charts, which, I don't know how much value those still hold. But let's just say, like you did the proposal, like I said, where you give up your number 2, that's worth 2,600 points, which would be the same as, say, getting the 17th pick and the 6th pick. So, I mean, if you were to, say, give up Phillip Rivers and give them your 17th overall pick, and they were to send you their 2nd, it's kind of like, you got a 5th round, or the number 5 overall pick out of it in exchange also for Phillip Rivers, essentially. So I could see that kind of probably working. I mean, I guess it makes a little more sense, but yeah, if you're, because who does San Diego have as their backup now? It's like nobody. Huh?
Is it Charlie Whitehurst?
Is it still? I mean, I know he left.
I don't know.
They signed him
I
back.
honestly don't know. I have no idea who their backup is.
It might be Charlie still.
This probably says that they need a quarterback, though, if they get rid of Phillip Rivers.
Exactly. So if they get rid of Phil, they'd have to probably go. And if they can keep their 1st round pick, the 17th overall, I mean, you can get a quarterback to replace, and then you can still go with that 17th pick, and, you lost your running back from this year, so if you want to go Melvin Gordon or Todd Gurley or something like that with 17, you all of a sudden you're at least assuming Mariota or whoever it would be at number 2 works out, not much worse off than you were before, but plus you got a lot younger. So that could be kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But if you're also Tennessee, for instance, I know that's just the team that we're stuck on, and there's no indication that, say, Tennessee would be the team he would go to. But you get him at number 2. I mean, it's like, do you have a team around him, though, that would really make you any better? I mean, obviously having a better quarterback makes you better. But do they have, like, a team right now that would even be capable of challenging, the Colts? Or even, like, wild card?
You're referring to if Tennessee acquired Phillip Rivers, do they have enough? Well, probably not, but then again, I mean, no, they probably don't. But at the same time, a quarterback of Phillip Rivers' level, I think, makes the players around him, or he makes them better. Because I mean, you look at the receivers he had. I mean, sure, Keenan Allen, like he kind of fell off a little bit last year. He was dealing with injuries all year. Um, but like I feel like Eddie Royal wasn't like a stud, and Philip Rivers made him into being a pretty good slot receiver. And um, I mean, I guess, gosh, I'm trying to think of what receivers are on that roster. They have the guy from Baylor, right?
Do they?
I think he's fast. I don't know his last name. Shoot. Uh, so obviously, I don't know Tennessee's receiving core at all. So I'm just gonna assume that he would be
Kendall.
Kendall, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. I'm just gonna assume Philip Rivers is gonna make the other receivers better than
Justin
if they were
Hunter.
to either draft
Justin
Mariota.
Hunter too, right?
Justin Hunter. He's actually okay. He actually had a pretty decent season, kind of up and down. But where was I going with that? I was going with I think Philip Rivers makes those guys better, good enough that they can at least hang with Indy, maybe better than if they were to draft Mariota this year. This year, I'm saying.
Short term probably works better.
Short term,
It'd be interesting, though,
Ken wasn't
especially if they gave up a lot. Now they don't.
keeps his job for another couple more years. For the short term, it's probably better. Honestly, I know you're high on Mariota. I just worry about him. I think if he goes to any system but Philadelphia, I think he's gonna struggle.
Maybe.
Maybe.
We'll see. You're probably going to have a coordinator smart enough to use him. I mean, if you run the same sort of offense, for instance, that San Francisco ran 2 years ago, I don't see why he couldn't do the same stuff that Kaepernick does, or did well when they went.
Not every team runs the old school power offense.
That's what I'm saying. Like you just gotta have.
There's a handful of teams that do that.
Yeah, but they took their normal offense and they kind of just incorporated some different moves out of it. So I mean, it's still power football out of the pistol, for instance.
But it really helped that team was a power run first team already.
Right.
It just happened that they decided to work in obviously the pistol and the read option, and obviously that stuff worked out really well. But it did help that Kaepernick had a really good running team in front of him.
Where's Buffalo drafting? I'm sure Rex Ryan would love to have a guy like that. He tried running the Wildcat and occasionally in New York. Now you can just run it all the time.
Yeah, him, Shady McCoy.
Right, that'd be fun.
God, the more I think about that move, maybe Cortland was kind of right. I don't know. It is kind of a head scratcher now. The more I've thought about it, after I had a week to kind of think about it, or a couple weeks here. I mean, they kind of signed a similar deal with DeMarco Murray when McCoy doesn't really have an injury problem. Like, he's young. He's arguably just as productive. I don't know. Just kind of interesting. I guess he really didn't like his personality, which I guess if you're trying to build a team, that's part of it.
Yeah. And speaking of running backs, obviously maybe the best that we've seen in a long time, at least Adrian Peterson is no longer happy in Minnesota. Which, hey, if he wants out, that's fine by me. I don't send him somewhere else as far as I'm concerned. But doesn't really have much power here, does he?
Well, it's interesting because Minnesota is fighting so hard to try to keep him, I think. Obviously his whole ordeal last year kind of hurt him from a PR standpoint. I mean, shit, but the way that Dallas is signing guys with PR, issues, why don't they just trade for Adrian Peterson too while they're at it? Um,
Well, I don't know, right? They got Hardy now, so.
they do, and then they can team Peterson with them or McFadden in that backfield. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I think if I was running the Vikings, I think I would try to trade him. If I would have already maybe cut him by now. I don't know. Like I just don't think he's the face of that franchise going forward anymore. After that whole incident last year, I don't know how that guy can be the face of your franchise anymore. I just don't. Especially like they have a bright spot with Teddy Bridgewater. I think he played very well as the season went on and near the end of the season and whatnot. I would. I don't know. I don't think I'd want that guy being associated with my team personally. But I don't know. It's interesting. And to answer your question, I'm not really sure how much leverage Adrian Peterson thinks he has. But apparently his agent thinks that he has some. So I don't know.
Right. I mean, it's not like he can sit out another year, and just like force his way out by not playing, because that will have been 2 years of not playing. He'll have been into his, I think he will have turned 30, if not 31, by the time he would have played again next year,
Right.
or the following year. I mean, he can't possibly sit out again. I mean, I guess he could just straight up retire, and then behind the scenes ask if they'll just, release him of his contractual duties a la Brett Favre, and then go sign with whatever team he wants to when he decides to unretire. But I mean, if you're Minnesota,
You have to bring Brett Favre into this, Brett.
I was not bashing him. I was just saying it was something that he did because he retired. Green Bay said fine, no longer whatever, and then he unretired and then signed with the Jets.
We almost took to the playoffs.
Almost till he tried to play through his tough guy injuries, and they went from like 8-3 to 9-7. Come on.
You made the Pro Bowl.
That's because the people that vote are stupid, Matt. We know the Pro Bowl is the lamest thing ever. Well,
how did Aaron Rodgers do that first year in Green Bay? You know what? They sucked.
They had troubles defense. We've talked about this. We're staying on topic here. Adrian Peterson.
In fact, the Vikings won the division that year with Travaris Jackson at quarterback. Anyways, that was my little rant.
That's sad.
They did. You know why? Because Aaron Rodgers threw back-breaking interceptions at the end of the game.
We lost a lot of close games that year. I'm not blaming it on Rodgers, all right? There's a lot of reasons that a game could be close and lost close. But anyway, back to Adrian Peterson in the Vikings case. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think he's gone. I don't think they can. They've said,
You think he stays in Minnesota, huh?
For now, I don't know. I don't think he'll be traded or anything before the draft. I mean, if it would make sense to
draft picks.
That's what I was saying. It would make sense if you could move them, before draft picks. You could at least get picks out of it, unless. You might want to see, where players go, and then just target guys that you thought had like late value, and maybe you want to trade for a guy that ended up being like a third-round pick or something. I have no idea what they would end up doing in that situation.
Okay. What do you think Adrian Peterson's value would be?
What would his trade value be? For a 30-year-old running back who hasn't played in a year, which could either be A, he's going to be rusty, or B,
he's going to be
as fresh as he's been in a long time, right? It depends on how optimistic you want to be, but that 3-0 number is for most running backs.
Most running backs, you hit that. It's this fact. Stats don't lie.
I'd say between his age, the fact he didn't get to play last year, and then it being an off-field issue, and the fact that he apparently doesn't give a damn and showed no remorse and kind of seems like some sort of sociopath or something. I don't know what. Obviously, very talented, but you don't know what's going to happen. Like a third or fourth?
That's what I thought. I read something that said he would be worth like a fourth or fifth. I could see a team if you were really wanting to try and get him. Like, to be honest, this is gonna sound. I know, I get it. I was making fun of the Cowboys earlier, but if you're the Cowboys, you give a third-round pick to bring in Adrian Peterson behind that offensive line. I would think that would be pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, if DeMarco Murray can be leading the league in rushing, I mean, Adrian Peterson could probably do the same
You would think.
for a year or two. But with his contract, isn't Dallas right up against the cap or anything?
Oh yeah, I forgot about the money issue. Ha! Yeah, they probably can't afford to.
Like the only team that I think would have interest would be Arizona, and their offensive line's better than it has been, but still not great. At least you'd have another back that would be a legitimate third down type back instead of having to be an every down back like he was in Minnesota, because they never really had that other guy to spell him. I mean, Toby Gerhart got like 80 carries, you know. I mean, you got like 3, 4, 5 yards or 4 carries a game. Like, he wasn't really spelling Adrian Peterson at all.
Didn't they invest the first round pick in him?
I don't know what they put in there.
Pretty sure they invested a first round pick in him the year that.
Are you sure it was a first?
I think so. It was the year they lost the championship game to New Orleans.
Why would you?
I think I need to look this up right now, but I think
I got it. I'm Googling him at the moment.
Was that right?
Stanford. He was drafted second round. That's
God dang it! Bullshit.
I say there was no way that year. Their first round pick was they traded it to Detroit. So who'd they move up for? Did they move up for somebody? Or they moved down? I don't really know. They traded their pick to Detroit, though, who ended up taking Javid Best, which also didn't work out. So
Javid Best? He was a first round pick?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Hey, man, if it wasn't for scary neck injuries, he would have been okay.
Brett, he's probably fragile.
Toby Gerhart, unreal. Second round. And then they didn't pick me into the fourth. That was a really bad draft for the Vikings. That was pitiful. Anyway, we can move on from the Adrian Peterson thing. Just another thing to keep an eye on for everybody. Because that would probably be pretty big news when it happens, if it happens. But something that did make some pretty big shock waves. You find articles all over the internet. He was on a TV show the other day talking about his decision, but it was Chris Borland obviously deciding to retire after only one season, one really great season where I think he, what Pro Football Focus have him as, like the number 2 linebacker, and he started half the season. Like, he was on his way to being a legit, starter in this league for a long time, but decided to retire. What's that?
Said probably on his way to, being I would think in the discussion for, Pro Bowls and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the guy that led the team in tackles despite only playing half the year. Heck, he was one of the top tacklers in the league despite only playing and starting half the games. He played in more than just half, but he only started, I think, half.
Mm-hmm.
It was great. Pro Football Focus had him rated really high. And with Patrick Willis retiring literally like a week before, people were like, oh, great. That's fine. We're okay. Navarro Bowman's coming back, and we got Chris Borland to fill the role. So, we're not. We're losing, a great player in Willis, but we have this backup. But now they don't. And the reason for retiring was after doing some research and talking with some other former players and stuff, he decided to do it for health reasons. You had anything to say on that at all, other than mocking him like you were doing off screen?
I was just doing the UW Go Bucky. Brett, I wasn't mocking him. He's doing the smart thing. He is. Obviously, brain injuries and stuff like that, or there's nothing good that can happen from your brain being jingled around like that. There just isn't. So obviously, I mean, it's a realistic thing, and um,
Someone's at
you
my
know,
door.
as much as I enjoyed and you enjoyed watching him play, because he's obviously a really good player. Like some of the things he did, especially because we watched him in college, like you can't teach instincts. Like it just happened, and he was one of those guys that just happened.
Hold on one moment. If you have other things to say, continue to say them. I'm going to pop off screen. Somebody just knocked on my door. I'll be right back.
Oh, okay. Anyway, so for the people who are watching, he anyone that watched him at UW, like just instinctively, active player, just would run around, make plays. He was one of those guys that was not afraid to stick his nose in, as they say. And I think that might have been part of the reason that he actually, in his decision-making process for choosing to retire, I think maybe he did realize that that is how he plays. And that is, like I mentioned, like sticking your neck in and sticking your nose in the piles and making plays. Like he only plays one way, and that's how he played. And maybe he just decided, I'm not exactly the biggest guy in the world. At some point, if I keep playing like this, it might catch up with me.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said just before this whole little discussion, I mean, I definitely enjoyed watching him play as much as I absolutely despise the 49ers. I really enjoyed tuning in to any of their primetime games that I got, and actually every little opportunity I got to watch Borland just all over the field, just making plays. It was awesome, but obviously he's doing what's best for his family and for his future, and I would like to see him maybe get an opportunity to coach someday if that's what he wants to do.
Would be a little interesting if he did go into coaching, considering his retirement was for he didn't think it was worth it. So I mean, especially if it was like college level, where, all right, kids, come play with me. I'll teach you all these things. I didn't think it was worth it, but maybe you can do it for free for the university. I mean, it would be a little. I think it'd be a little hard now. I
He
know.
got a free education out of that, Brett. Now I
Yeah.
don't know what his major was, or I
He's
have no idea what his
going to go back to school. He's apparently been on campus at UW. I think he went back because Dave Aranda, the linebackers coach, mentioned it in an interview the other day that he's got to see Chris and talk with Chris, so he thought that was nice having him around. But I know he's going back to school, I think, for like a sports management administration major, kind of like I did.
That's right.
Right. So maybe he'll be more behind the scenes, where he's going to try to help the kids off the field more so than on-field direction, because like I said, it would be a little weird for him to do it that way. But obviously he would know what he's talking about. He had great instincts. He was a great player. Anytime he made a play, he would mention, how he kind of knew the tendencies and something that he studied, when he was watching film, prepping for any game. So, I mean, I think he would have, and he's well-spoken. So, I mean, I think the kids would like to have him. He's young. So it's like a recruiter. I'm sure kids would love to have, like another 25, 26-year-old person to kind of come into their home and be easy to relate with them. Now, parents might not be quite as easy with such a young guy coming into the home and trying to recruit, but either way, it would be a little hard, I think, for me to send my kid to somebody who said they didn't think it was worth it when they could be making, I mean, in all fairness, those first 4 years would have only been worth $3 million or whatever it was over those 4 years total. But still, either way, he would have been a millionaire, in a couple of years, and his next contract would have been huge. I mean, if it's not worth it for him, why do I want him coaching my kids who aren't making millions, or potentially? So it's a little hard, but like you said, I mean, if you watch that interview, I forget what show he was on.
Outside Lines?
No, well, he might have had it on there too, but he actually was like on almost like a political show on like CBS or something, or ABC this week. But and he said that he loved the violence of the game. Like that was, and you mentioned his style of play and what he was doing is like he's like I loved it. I thought it was great. That's kind of what got me pumped up and excited about the game was just hitting people. Filling the hole and taking on a fullback or a pulling guard and just trying to defeat them and then make the tackle. He's like, it was all exciting. but getting beat in the head, especially for a guy like you mentioned, that size, going up against a fullback coming at you at 260 pounds or a pulling guard at 315 pounds, that's not going to be an easy thing to do and sustain for a long time, and then obviously the long-term injuries are probably there. Some people dispute the research on it. I don't think I would. I know I sustained a concussion, which was kind of scary, and I've seen video where people sustain a concussion, don't get it treated, and then go back in and get hit in the head again, and can actually almost kill them if it's not treated right away after that second one, because their brain is literally like bleeding out of or bulging out of their head. So it's scary, and I get it. But like I said, selfish reasons. I wish he would still be playing, because he's one of my favorite players to watch.
Yeah, definitely.
And then talking about, actually, good segue, concussions and whatever, leading into this, I guess the owners' meetings and stuff, they decided to have a new rule where, like a third person, like a spotter kind of up in the booth or whatever, can actually stop the game and take a player out if they suspect that they're, maybe concussed. So we mentioned that, before we started recording, like Julian Edelman in the Super Bowl obviously looked like he may have gotten hurt, stayed in the game, and still actually continued to make plays. So, but in an instant like that where a guy looks like there's some injuries, it's not up to the coaching staff or even the refs. It'll be like a third party now that can take a guy out if they want to. Do you think that's a good rule?
I do. If the NFL is going to be very brash about how much they care about player safety and how much they value player safety, something like this really needs to happen, because I'm willing to bet that 90% of America that watched the Super Bowl, I'm pretty sure all of us thought that Edelman was concussed. And there's no way that he should not be getting – there's no way he should not be getting evaluated for a concussion. Like, the Patriots in the Super Bowl did – they had it – you watch football enough, and if I think I'm not around these guys every single day, I'm not watching these violent hits, like, I don't get to see them live up in person as they do, but if I think the guy has a concussion, there's no way that team did not think that he had a concussion. And the Patriots did, the arguably the thing that was selfish for the team's sake, but not necessarily for Edelman's health, but they kept him in the game by running, just rep to line of scrimmage, and they didn't even give, any medical staff an opportunity to look at him. And obviously, it had an outcome in the game, and to be honest with you, if he got looked at right away and he doesn't come back in the game, I don't know. Like, who knows? That's all. So many what ifs.
Fair enough. Let's see. There was also some other changes too. Apparently, let's see. So protecting the receiver. So it's extended now to the protection for the receiver, even if the ball is intercepted, and they can't defend themselves from a hit, so it can't be picked off and then like have someone fly across and still nail them like right after the interception or something like that. That's still good. That's going to be illegal now. You can't push your teammates at the line of scrimmage on punts and field goals, so no more lining up behind each other and trying to shove them through a hole. Which, hey, if you're Cam Chancellor, just jump over the line. You don't need somebody to push you. And I know they also reiterated a pretty important rule. I'm sure First Take talked about it today, but whatever. Skip Bayless probably had something terrible to say. But they're saying that you have to, they just reiterated, if you have to establish yourself as a runner to complete a catch, or if you're going to the ground, you have to maintain it through. Obviously kind of taking aim a little bit at, that Calvin Johnson / now maybe that Des Bryant rule, depends on what team you're familiar with and whatever. But I think it's still kind of hard. I know we talked about this last night. I mean, do you have any thoughts on what it means to like establish a receiver as a runner?
I guess I feel like you got to make a football move. And now the definition of the football rule or move, like what is considered that, is also, I guess, hard to define. No matter what, something, it's going to be kind of subjective. Like it's going to be up to interpretation by the refs. Um, I don't know. Honestly, though, like the more I think about it, the more like you and I both played receiver at one point in our lives, and obviously we both thought that Dez Bryant clearly snagged the ball, but because he decided to take one step and try to spin around and extend the ball to cross the goal line and slams it on the ground and it pops up, it's not ruled a catch. Well, by rule, if you're going to go to the ground, you have to maintain possession of the ball. Like, that's just the rule, I guess. And I don't know. Like, if that's the case, then don't you gotta know as a wide receiver that if I go to the ground instead of just going out of bounds, I better be dang sure that I'm holding onto the football, or I'm not going to be considered a catch, right? Like,
Yeah, I mean, in his head, I'm sure at the time, he's probably like, okay, I've established myself. I'm just gonna reach, just like if he was running and getting tackled too and was lunging.
right.
That's probably what was happening in his mind, but you gotta realize that, hey, if it was just after I caught a pass, maybe I'm leaving it up to the ref. You talk about MMA and wrestling, for instance. You don't ever want to leave it up to the ref. You just want to make sure that you get it done and not leave it to somebody else's interpretation of rule, or let it go to a judge or anything like that. So, just take care of the business. I mean, hey, in that instance, for instance, you catch the ball and you're tackled at the half-yard line or the 1-yard line, wherever he would have been down at. You're still going to be in a position to win the game. It wasn't like that was the final play. I don't recall. So
no, they still had some time, and
you have the best offensive line football, one of the lower teams in terms of stopping the run. I mean, at the goal line, sure, hand it off 3 times and see if you guys can score that way. I mean, it's nice to be able to be the hero kind of sort of deal. And I'm not saying Dez was trying to play hero ball. He's just trying to make a great play, which great players always do.
right.
But it was unfortunate for him, great for us. I'm trying not to be biased in my interpretation of the rule or anything. Because I love Dez as a receiver. The dude's amazing.
Yeah, he's.
We talk about that later too. Not many guys we'd rather have on our team than Dez.
No, there's not. And I mean, to be fair to him, I mean, I think you or me probably would have tried to do the same thing. Like, instinctively, you try to score. Like, you don't jump out of bounds. Like, you try to score. Like, and I legitimately think that's all he was trying to do. I don't think he was trying to go to the ground to in some way help him make the catch. I think he was just trying to score, but by the way the rule's defined, I guess that means, I guess now that it happened, especially to him, I don't know, because that is such an instinctive thing, I don't know if it's something that will necessarily change how he plays from now on, or maybe it will be. Maybe now instead he will just catch the ball and just get out of bounds right away in those situations. I don't know. Like, it's a tough rule, and I don't know how to. It is what it is, I guess.
It is. Let's see, and then obviously perhaps one of the most exciting weekends in sports just happened. It's the opening round of the NCAA tournament. The team whose university I attend and currently work for, unfortunately got bounced against Wichita State, who ended up beating Kansas, so they're under the Sweet 16. Team that we both grew up rooting for, however, also did advance to the Sweet 16. Throwing up the W. And that last game against Oregon, a little scary, though they never were trailing. Still a little scary. I guess it was better than last year's game where they had to roar back. But, Frank didn't have a great game. Thank God Sam Decker decided to play, and Showalter off the bench decided to contribute a little bit too. Got some 5 points and 5 rebounds, which doesn't seem like a lot, but
he got those points in pretty pivotal moments, or a couple of pretty important. And the way the Badgers bench is, anytime we can get any sort of points from those guys, it's just bonus points.
That's true. And then the loss from Indiana has some people clamoring for Prince Ed. I can't really comment much on that whole scenario. All I can say is really we're just gonna have to wait and see. The athletic director before the tournament, gave him a vote of confidence. But then after they lost, everyone still wants to have like a press conference and stuff like that. I'm like, well, guys, maybe he just thinks when he said he's safe the first time, he meant he's safe. Like, there's no reason to have like another press conference saying he's safe.
Okay, here's my take. Since you can't say anything about this, I'll say something about it. So, I hope Indiana keeps him. This is great. Are you kidding me? Indiana, like, they should be a basketball powerhouse, and it just seems like with Tom Crean, they're okay. I mean, whatever. Like, what?
They were number 1 overall one year.
They were.
Vic Oladipo, great players.
They did. They had 2 NBA players, 2 lottery picks. How far did they go that year in the tourney?
I think it was Sweet 16.
Come on. I like it. I think they should keep him. They need to give him another chance. Okay? He had sustained success at Marquette with Dwayne Wade. Boy, that was one of the only teams I can think of that was good with him. But Marquette was okay with him. I don't know. I mean, it's interesting because it shocks me. Like, Indiana is supposed to be a basketball powerhouse, and I feel like Wisconsin's been more of a powerhouse lately. Granted, it's just 2 years, I guess. Actually, if we're talking about Big Ten basketball, the most sustained program I would say is probably Michigan State. Love or hate Tom Izzo. Personally, I don't like him all that much just because he always plays the Badgers really tough. You specifically were like, oh, Big Ten title game or championship game. I don't care that we have to play Michigan State. I'm not worried. What did I say? They took us to overtime because they're stupid Michigan State and it's stupid tournament time. And now, because of the way the stupid brackets work out, Michigan State's going to be back in the Final Four as a 7th seed.
Maybe.
Maybe it's pretty much given to them, Brett.
Who do they got to play?
It doesn't matter who they have to play because Villanova, who's garbage, and Virginia, who's garbage, both got knocked out.
I mean, they weren't garbage. They just played bad enough to lose the opening weekend. It happens, okay?
Oh my God. It happens. You've clearly been living in Indiana too long. It happens? What are you talking about? It happens. You need to get your head out of the sand, man.
No, it's interesting you brought up Tom Izzo, though. I don't remember who it was. I'd love to give them credit. Maybe I'll hop on our Twitter and I'll try to find it and retweet the information. They actually did calculations based on expected wins by seed. And they've done it, for the last however many years. It's been a lot of years, by the way. They went back and analyzed this. Of all the coaches to overplay their seed, right? So you mentioned, as a 7 seed, maybe you're
knocked out a 2 seed.
Yeah, to win 1.5 games a year. So he's obviously overperformed. But Izzo has, and by their estimation, then it makes him the best March coach or best tournament coach ever. But his teams have won way more games than they've been expected to based on seed. So, I mean, you're speaking, obviously you mentioned, the tournament in March and his team's always being ready for that. Like, that seems to bear out true. Though it does raise an interesting question of, does that just mean that his teams always underperform all regular season, and that's why they have a low seed, which they can overperform? I mean...
It could be, or maybe it just takes his guys a while to get gel together, if you will. Or... maybe part of it is just Michigan State lure, and they just know that come tournament time that they're expected to perform.
Right, take a little bit of extra pride when that season rolls around. Like, not that it means that they're like jagging off, during like the regular season. Like, they're obviously still going to try to win as many games as they can, but
right.
Something flips. Once the calendar goes to March, all of a sudden that team starts playing a lot better and than they had for most of the time, for the regular season. So,
yeah.
Another interesting comparison on that list. We won't talk about it a whole lot. I just thought it was interesting because Bomani Jones, I think, was tweeting about Roy Williams and Coach K at Duke. They were actually right next to each other on that list. They were so they basically have identical expectations. Or sorry, yeah. Coach K, I think, has been expected to win more because he's been to more tournaments. He's been coaching 5 extra years. But they've exceeded their expectations by the same amount. So I thought that was interesting. So I guess we can just end that discussion of who's a better coach by just saying, close enough. Though Coach K does have 4 titles to Roy's 2. So I guess that's where if you want a tiebreaker, that's where you could go. But I want to get back to Wisconsin's title run. If they were to win the title, their likely path is going to be maybe 4 of those blue blood types, right? You'd have to get North Carolina this week with Arizona on Saturday.
Everyone. Okay,
they're a little odd man out there.
Right here, right. Since I'm obviously I live in Wisconsin. Like I listen to sports radio. Everyone, and one guy called in and actually made a good point. Everyone is just assuming Arizona is going to move on. I think it would be hilarious if Xavier upset them somehow. That would just be funny.
I mean, you're right. This tournament time, crazy stuff happens. Arizona's a really good team.
They're really good.
Arguably could have been a 1 seed, perhaps. I mean, realistically.
Could have been a 1 seed over stupid Villanova.
Right?
Garbage. I said that a long time ago. Villanova should not be a 1 seed.
Heck, I would almost rather have them switch places with Wisconsin. I would have taken a 2 out west if it meant we got to play. Well, Ohio State wouldn't have probably been there. They would have had to have moved to Ohio State. But, a 10 and then everything else being equal, Xavier over UNC. Because the North Carolina style, they play fast. I think they're the 10th fastest team in the country.
They do. One of the radio shows I was listening to, they always try to get like someone that covers the other team in on the Mike Heller show, and they had a Tar Heel or guy that covers them hard, and he said, yeah, like you just mentioned, North Carolina likes to get up and down the court. They like to put up a lot of points. They are absolutely terrible, and this is his words. He said they are terrible in half-court games. He said they're like 1 in 5, like when they don't get at least like 60-some possessions. Yeah. Like, and Wisconsin obviously is one of the best executing teams in the entire country. I would say that we're more upbeat than some years when it comes to up-tempo offense. Like, but still, we do what we do. Like, we like to try and move the ball around, get the best shot available, and that's what we do. We do a really good job too of taking those teams that like to run and making them play our style of basketball.
Right, we do our best, and we do a really good job too of getting. I know it's kind of overlooked occasionally, but defensive rebounds. It ends a possession, makes it so the other team doesn't get an offensive rebound and some second chance points, which I think North Carolina's pretty good at.
We did struggle against Oregon.
I was just gonna say a little concerning because we got out rebounded by Oregon.
Much smaller team, and we got out rebounded.
We did, so I mean, I'm sure Bo will have the team ready, and our effort will be a little bit better. Because I think our effort in that Oregon game, I don't know if we're just tired at this point. Our guys have played 36 minutes a game because we don't get much from the bench. Occasionally there'll be games where Gosser or Koenig don't actually sit at all. They play 40 minutes or something.
I gotta be honest with you. I'm a little worried. If we do get past North Carolina, we gotta play Arizona. A little worried about what you just said because I honestly think the reason that we struggled against Oregon was simply because we just seemed like we were tired. I just don't think we had as much energy. And if we play that way against Arizona, I don't think we're gonna beat Arizona.
What might help us, because I feel like you could see some of the players, perhaps Frank, especially down in the paint, occasionally thought that he was getting fouled or something like on some plays,
Yeah.
and it wasn't being called. North Carolina, I think, is one of the more heavy foul teams. So if we can get them in some foul trouble, at least our guys, won't get as frustrated. Sure, they might miss a shot, but hey, if they got fouled and get to go to the line, they'll take that versus thinking they got fouled, missed a shot, and they don't get to the line, and now they can't rush back on defense because they look over the ref and go like this for a second, and then realize that the other team is on their way down the court. So
did you hear what Bo was asked when going into halftime against Oregon?
Yeah.
Frank's been struggling. What did he say? He was like 3 for 7, and Bo's like, well, if he makes one more shot, he's 4 for 8, right? Like that's 50%.
Yeah, some people that rub some people the wrong way.
Okay.
That rub some people the wrong way. I think Bo's a douche for that, but it's whatever. It's kind of like Cowherd going off on Bo, trying to tell him to relax and chill out because Bo simply said it's interesting that of all the teams that are in our Western Regional, we're the only team that had to play Sunday. So everybody else is getting that rest. And like we mentioned, I think this team is getting really tired. If Trayvon Jackson can come back and give them, and even give them 10 minutes.
10 minutes? Yeah, that would be huge.
And that means getting, Josh and Koenig a little bit of a break. That'd be a big help. Or if we wanted to go a 3-guard set. Now, I don't think we would go 3 guards because I don't feel like North Carolina usually goes 3 guards. They got some good length and height. Usually, I think they actually start 1 guard and 4 forwards. So that would be a little interesting. But if we needed to at some point play small ball, Trey would give them that opportunity to go small. With confidence. Nothing against Showalter. It's just I don't think we've had Showalter out there with the other 2 guards at the same point at any time this season, and it just doesn't seem like that'd be something.
North Carolina's probably not the team to decide to start to do that.
Probably not. Though this could be the game where we play that Redwood offense a lot, where we bring in Dukin off the bench and then just have 1 guard. So we'll have 4 forwards and then 1 guard, maybe to match up some of that length that North Carolina seems to have.
Don't get me started on Dukin.
Dude,
the guy sucks, right? He's 2 offensive fouls. He hit 1 3-pointer by dumb luck.
No, he's not dumb luck. The guy's got a beautiful stroke. I love his shot.
Beautiful stroke? Okay. What is his shooting percentage?
I mean, I think in the last week it's like around 40.
What about the offensive fouls?
That guy flopped. It was a clear flop.
We need. Come on.
By a much smaller player. All right, that's what I was getting at too. Is I think some of the players were just frustrated because they didn't feel like their calls were going their way in that game. So
they weren't.
Also, really cool to see regarding that game. It doesn't count, but there was that dunk that Decker had on the alley-oop right after a steal from Gosser, and Gosser went to alley-oop it to him. Bo called timeout. Made everything bad at the moment. But when Decker dunked it, it actually went through, and then the hoop
looped around
flipped it back around and put it in again. So it was like he made 2 baskets and 1 didn't count. Actually came out of that timeout, I think, and we got a 3-pointer out of it.
A 3-pointer, yeah.
So we actually gained the point there, despite everyone being mad, because obviously alley-oop dunks are great, but hey, 3 points are better than 2. So,
yep.
It was nice to see. And I mean, we can probably talk about other teams if we want to. I feel like we spent a lot of time on Wisconsin, which obviously makes sense.
We can touch on. We should probably do it justice and touch a little bit on Kentucky. Gosh, if we have to play Kentucky, it's just I don't know if I see Kentucky losing at all this tournament. I don't know why I picked them to lose, but
what it would okay. If you watch that Cincinnati game, it was close-ish for most of it. Cincinnati's offense looked like crap, but what they did was they really played physical the whole game. Rotated guys in and out, and they're just going to go physical. If they could have, thrown a ball into an ocean, maybe like the game would have been closer. because that offense is not like an offense that they would see, from a Wisconsin team who moves it better, who shoots it better from outside,
Yeah, that's true.
and has legitimate bigs. So I mean, that would be one thing. I don't think we would play as physical though as Cincinnati did, which kind of
Yeah,
got them.
they played pretty physical. The issue we would have is, well, you hit on it earlier. Our Achilles heel is our bench is not great, and Kentucky's got a pretty good bench, so that's going to be a problem.
Right, they can bring like 4 All-American McDonald's players or whatever off the bench. So
Honestly,
obviously,
that's something that worries me about Arizona too. Is I think Arizona's going to have a better bench than we've probably seen, and that could be an issue as well. I mean, I think we could beat Kentucky if we matched up against them. I legit think we could win. I think we'd have to play probably our best game. They might have to not play their best game a little bit. It's like one of those things. It's kind of like it's like the Packers versus the Seahawks in the NFC Championship game. Probably 8 out of 10 times the Seahawks are going to win that game, I think. But there's those 2 times where the Packers are going to win. And I think if we played Kentucky like that, we have a legit chance to win. I just don't know if it'll really happen.
right. I mean, basically, it would take just about our best game that we could play, and I say we, UW could play, and a sub-best game from Kentucky. And now they've had some really close games this year. I think they beat LSU because an LSU dude missed a decent look at a 3 that would have won it. Georgia played them really close for most of it until they pushed it down their leg for the last 3 minutes or 4 minutes of that game. Georgia had no idea what they were doing. I mean, so it hasn't happened, but they're beatable. You just gotta not mess up yourself. You gotta take advantage of the opportunities that there will be. Wisconsin's probably one of the better teams at that. I think Arizona will be pretty solid too. At that, I mean, it's definitely going to be more of a fight for them than they've seen all year. Because we look even at the preseason matchup against Kansas. It's like, well, how good was Kansas really? They crushed them. They beat them by 30, which obviously means they're really good, regardless of who you're playing. But yeah, they look. It's hard to imagine them losing, but it's definitely possible. Especially now that we're on Sweet 16. That probably isn't going to happen this weekend, but Final Four and the championship game obviously is going to be tough for them as well. Looking elsewhere, Duke actually made it to the second weekend. Way to go, Duke! Congratulations, you did better than last year.
I still don't expect Duke to make it super far. I'm not sure who I would have them losing to though.
Utah, baby. I think that's
Maybe
who they
Utah's
play
got a couple NBA
this week,
guys,
right?
possibly.
I think Utah is going to be good. Provide a really tough test for them because they're going to do some things, that Duke may not be the best at, defending in certain ways. They've got some decent size, I think, too.
Mm-hmm.
And you also got, let's see, who else is in that? Is that Gonzaga's round?
I think so.
Okay. Yeah, because Gonzaga, if they make it that far, also is obviously a pretty tough team, having been a 2 seed. That some people thought may have been a 1 seed at one point. I know they lost late in the year, which knocked them down to that 2 line. But I mean, we've got some pretty good teams left overall, and it should be fun. I'm hoping there can be at least the same amount of success. I know that a guy like Frank came back and Decker came back, and they've basically said, I mean, the only reason they really wanted to come back was to win this title.
Yep.
It's workmanlike. They didn't celebrate as much, after they clinched the regular season title. Didn't really celebrate a whole lot after winning the tournament title, despite that being in semi-dramatic fashion going to overtime. But they shut Michigan State out in that overtime, so it wasn't really much drama there. All they really say is, hey, we got 2 out of 3, 1 more to go. I mean, it's pretty businesslike. So I think that mindset too is actually going to help Wisconsin out because regardless of what's happening in that game, I don't really feel like they're going to give up a whole lot. Though I think it was funny. I think I think it was the Michigan State game, or maybe it was at one point in the huddle though. Bo basically just said, "I didn't know my team was full of a bunch of softies." Or he's like, "I didn't know we were this soft." So I mean, he's just kind of rubbing the players just enough, and they kind of went back out there and they're like, "All right, fine, we're not going to be soft," and they just went out and handled business, and that kind of kicked him in the rear a little bit to go.
Right.
So I don't know. This should be fun. We have some perhaps intriguing stuff happening in Indiana. One of our coaches actually took the job at University of Illinois Chicago, who actually let go of former Badgers assistant. So we got one guy that's left. Crean has a staff of a bunch of former coaches, guys that used to be head coaches elsewhere or have helped him in other locations too. So I expect him to be able to hire a coach fairly soon. Can't say much because I really don't know, but assuming that he's staying, he'll probably get a pretty decent coach in there. Though, they have to cut 2 guys on that roster right now. Sorry, not cut. They can't cut. We promise kids multi-year scholarships. We can't remove any, but we are oversigned right now by 2, so 2 kids are going to magically find their way home. It'll be interesting to see who those are. I have an idea of who, but I can't really say much on that either.
That's fair. Got to give a quick shout out to our alma mater. We are Division III national champions.
Division III national champs, UW Stevens Point in basketball. They won when we were there too. So I mean, that's 2. Yep. I think in the last 4 or 5 years they've won 2.
Yep. The team was really highly ranked last year, and they got knocked out on their home court. And I think I heard on the radio today we have 3 or 4 seniors that were coming back, and this year they came back, and they just had a little bit of a edge to them because Whitewater won it, and we beat Whitewater in the regular season, and we knew that we probably should have been the ones that were champions last year, and since we weren't, we decided to go out and do it this year, and yeah.
So go Pointers, go Stevie the Pointer.
Stevie the Pointer. But yeah, I think that's about all we got this week. Next week, hopefully, we'll have we'll probably go over some more tournament stuff because that is obviously a big thing that's going on right now. And maybe we'll have some NFL stuff going on too.
And is basketball playoffs, is that coming up sometime soon? It's got to be.
The NBA playoffs?
Yeah.
They're like, I don't know, maybe a dozen games left for each team, give or take. I'm actually going to the Bucks game this Saturday, so they play Golden State. They're probably going to get smoked. But you know what, Jason? It's just a learning thing. Jason Kidd is learning. Maybe we secretly don't want to make the playoffs so we can get a lottery pick, and then we can draft Frank the Tank. So I don't know.
Frank the Tank. I mean, we do kind of need a center, right?
We do. And he would be a good fit. Our offense loves ball movement. He'd fit right in.
He'd fit right in. Plus, we would have somebody that can actually maybe shoot a 3.
And Wisconsin fans would love him going there.
Oh my God, that would be crazy.
I'm pretty sure either of them, if the Badgers or if the Bucks happen to draft, would be exciting. I just hope that Nigel Hayes decides not to go pro. That would be fantastic.
He said it would take some sort of major changes or miracle for him to want to go pro after this year.
Major changes.
He said that.
Well, if we win the national title and a team offers you millions of dollars, it might be kind of hard to say no.
It might be. Now, the thing with the NBA is if you're a first-round pick in the NBA, your contract is guaranteed. I think it's like a 3-year deal. All that money's guaranteed. So you could get cut. You don't play ever. You could just be a bench dude or play in the D-League for 3 years. It doesn't matter. Your contract's guaranteed. But if you're a second-round guy that doesn't make a team, now you've got no money. So, if he was getting promises that he'd be a first-round pick, yeah, maybe. I don't think it happens unless he has this ridiculous tournament where he just goes off for like 20 points a game which is great. It means Wisconsin's probably
Probably
winning.
means we're doing good if he's doing that.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe, but I don't see it. Though he has definitely improved his stock, after last year being mostly a
He's a much
mid-range
better
post-up
player.
guy. This year he's extended that range to a 3-point. I think he's shooting like 37%
Does
or
everything
somewhere in
well.
that range
He
outside.
rebounds good. He drives inside good. He's got a jump shot.
Much better free throw shooter than he was last year. I think he's improved it.
There's a lot to like about Nigel Hayes.
Yeah,
I
he's
think
got
there's a lot of upside.
So that should be fun, to see. And I don't think he'll go pro. Next year's Badger team probably going to be top 4 in the Big Ten yet again. Though
Hey, if we get Stone, that would be amazing.
that would be. You could definitely use a big because after February, it's not really sure who's going to be there.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Now, finally, again, now it's it.
Sounds good. Well, thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back next week.